Hello, how are you? Hope you're well and you're enjoying the wishing chair again. So, we ended on a nice one, didn't we, last time? They finally got the wishing chair back. Took 6 chapters. So we've got chapter 7 now, off on another adventure. For a whole week the children watched and waited for the wishing chair to grow its wings again. It didn't sprout them at all. The wings had vanished as soon as it had arrived safely back in the playroom. "I hope its magic isn't getting less," said Molly one day as they sat in the playroom playing Ludo together. It was their favourite game, and they always laughed at Binky because he made such a fuss when he didn't get home before they did. As they sat playing together, they felt a welcome draught. "Oh, lovely, a breeze at last," said Molly thankfully. "I do really think this is just about the hottest day we've had these holidays." "The wind must have got up a bit at last," said Peter. "Blow, wind, blow. You're making us lovely and cool." Can't believe they don't realise what's happening. "Funny that the leaves on the trees aren't moving, isn't it?" said Binky. Molly looked out of the open door at the trees in the garden. They were perfectly still. "But there isn't a breeze," she said. And then a sudden thought struck her. She looked around at the wishing chair, which was standing just behind them. "Look," she said, "how silly we are. It isn't the wind, it's the wishing chair that has grown its wings again. They're flapping like anything." And so they were. The children and Binky sprang up in delight. "Good, we could just do with a lovely cool ride up in the air today," said Peter. "Wishing chair, we are very pleased with you." The wishing chair flapped its wings very strongly again and gave a creak. Then Binky noticed something. "I say, look, it's only grown 3 wings instead of 4. What's happened? It's never done that before." They all stared at the chair. One of its front legs hadn't grown a wing. It looked rather odd without it. Binky looked at the chair rather doubtfully. "Do you think it can fly with only 3 wings?" he said. "This is rather a peculiar thing to happen, really. I wonder if we ought to fly off in the chair if it's only got 3 wings instead of 4. "Oh, I don't see why not," said Molly. "After all, an airplane can fly with 3 engines, if the 4th one stops." I don't know whether I'd be happy with that. The chair gave a little hop up in the air as if to say it could fly perfectly well. "Oh, come along," said Binky. "We'll try. I'm sure it'll be all right. But I wish I knew what to do to get the 4th wing to grow. Something has gone wrong, it's plain." They got into the chair, Binky as usual sitting on the back, holding on to their shoulders. The chair flew to the door. "Where shall we go?" said Binky. "Well, we never did get to the land of goodness knows where after all," said Molly. "Shall we try to get there again? We know it's a good way away, so it would be a nice long flight, very cool and windy high up in the air." "We may as well," said Binky. "Fly to the land of goodness knows where, chair. We saw it on the map. It's due east from here, straight towards where the sun rises. You go over the tip-top mountains, past the crazy valley, and then down by the zigzag coast." "Sounds exciting," said Molly. "Oh, isn't it lovely to be cool again? It's so very hot today." They were now high up in the air, and a lovely breeze blew past them as they flew. Little clouds like puffs of cotton wool floated below them. Molly leaned out to get hold of one as they passed. "Oh, this is fun," she said. "Binky, is there a land of ice creams? If so, I'd like to go there sometime." "Don't know, never heard of one," said Binky. "There is a land of goodies, though, I know that. It once came to the top of the faraway tree and I went there. It was lovely, biscuits growing on trees and chocolates spratting on bushes." "Oh, did you see Moonface and Silky and the old saucepan man?" asked Molly in excitement. "I've read the books about the faraway tree and I've always wished I could climb it." "Oh, it's nice to hear about them again, isn't it?" Oh. "Yes, I saw them all," said Binky. "Silky is sweet, you'd love her. But Moonface was cross because somebody had taken all his slippery slip cushions, you know. You know the cushions he keeps in his room at the top of the tree for people to sit on when they slide down from the top to the bottom. I wouldn't mind going to the Land of Goodies at all, said Peter. It sounds really fine. I almost wish we'd told the chair to go there instead of the Land of Goodness knows where. Well, don't change its mind for it, said Binky. It doesn't like that. Look, there are the Tip-Top Mountains. They all leaned out to look. They were very extraordinary mountains, running up into high, jagged peaks, as if somebody had drawn them higgledy-piggledy with a pencil, up and down, up and down. On they went through a batch of tiny little clouds, but Molly didn't try to catch any of these, because just in time she saw that baby elves were fast asleep of them, one to each cloud. Oh, isn't that? They make good cradles for a hot day like this, explained Binky. After a while, Molly noticed that Binky was leaning rather hard on her shoulder, and that Peter seemed to be leaning against her too. She pushed them back. Don't lean so heavily on me, she said. We don't mean to, said Peter, but I seem to be leaning that way all the time. I do try not to. Why are we, I wonder, said Binky. Then he gave a cry. Why, the chair's all on one side. No wonder Peter and I keep going over onto you, Molly. Look, it's tipped sideways. What's the matter with it? Said Molly. Well, we know what's the matter, don't we? She tried to shake the chair upright by swinging herself about on it, but it always overbalanced onto the left side as soon as she stopped swinging it to and fro. They all looked in alarm at one another as the chair began to tip more and more to one side. It was very difficult to sit in it without it tipped when it tipped like that. It's because it's only got 3 wings, said Binky suddenly. Of course that's it. The one wing on this side is tired out, so the chair is flying with only 2 wings really, and it's tipping over. It'll soon be on its side in the air. Oh, gracious! Then for goodness sake, let's go down to the ground at once, said Molly in alarm. We shall fall out if we don't. Go down to the chair. Go down to the ground, chair, commanded Peter, feeling the chair going over to one side even more. He looked over the side. The one wing there had already stopped flapping. The chair was only using 2 wings, and they would soon be tired out too. The chair flew heavily down to the ground and landed with rather a bump. Its wings stopped flapping and hung limp. It creaked dolefully. That's quite sad. Dolefully means sad. It was quite exhausted, that was plain. We shouldn't have flown off on it when it only had 3 wings, said Binky. It was wrong of us. After all, Peter and Millie, you have grown bigger since last holidays and must be heavier. The chair can't possibly take us all unless it has 4 wings to fly with. They stood and looked at the poor, tired wishing chair. What are we going to do about it? Said Peter. Well, we must try to find out where we are first, said Binky, looking round. And then we must ask if there is a witch or wizard or magician anywhere about that could give us something to make the chair grow another wing. Then we'd better take it straight home for a rest. Look, said Molly, pointing to a nearby signpost. It says, to the village of Slipperies. Do you know that village, Binky? No, but I've heard of it, said Binky. The people there aren't very nice, slippery as eels. Can't trust them or believe a word they say. I don't think we'll go that way. He went to look at the other arm of the signpost and came back looking very pleased. It says, Dame Quickfingers, he said. She's my great aunt. She'll help us out all right. She'll be sure to know a spell for growing wings. She keeps a pack of flying dogs, you know, because of the Slipperies. They simply fly after them when they come to steal her chickens and ducks. Goodness, I'd love to see some flying dogs, said Molly. Where does this aunt of yours live? Oh, just down the road, round a corner and by a big rowan tree, said Binky. She's really nice. I dare say she'd ask us to tea if we are as polite as possible. She loves good manners. Well, you go and ask her if she knows how to grow an extra wing on our chair, said Molly. We'd better stay here with the chair, I think, in case anyone thinks of stealing it again. We can easily bring it along to your aunt's cottage if she's in. We won't carry it all the way there, just in case she's not. Right, I'll go, said Binky. I won't be long. You just sit in the chair till I come back, and don't you let anyone steal it. Well, I think that's a bit risky, letting Binky go off on his own again, after they've not long got him back. But at least they got the wishing chair. He ran off down the road and disappeared round a corner. Molly and Peter sat down in the chair to wait. The chair creaked. It sounded very tired indeed. Molly patted its arms. You'll soon be all right once you've got a fourth wing, she said. Cheer up. Binky hadn't been gone very long before the sound of footsteps made the children look round. 5 little people were coming along the road from the village of Slippery's. They looked most peculiar. They must be Slippery's, said Peter, sitting up. Now we must be careful they don't play a trick on us and get the chair away. Aren't they odd looking? The 5 little creatures came up and bowed low. Good day, they said. We came to greet you and to ask you to visit our village. What do you reckon? Trouble? Chapter 8. Slippery's play a trick. Peter and Molly looked hard at the 5 Slipperys. Each Slippery had 1 blue eye and 1 green, and not one of them looked straight at the children. That must have looked weird. Their hair was slick and smooth. Their mouths smiled without stopping, and they rubbed their bony hands together all the time. I'm sorry, said Peter, but we don't want to leave our chair. We're waiting here with it till our friend Binky comes back from seeing his great-aunt Quickfingers. Oh, she's gone to market, said one of the Slipperys. She always goes on Thursdays. Oh dear, said Peter, how tiresome. Now we shan't be able to get a 4th wing for our wishing chair. Oh dear me, is this a wishing chair? Said the Slipperys in great interest. It's the first time we've seen one. Do let us sit in it. Certainly not, said Peter, feeling certain that if he let them sit on the chair, they would try to fly off on it. I hear that Great-aunt Quickfingers has some flying dogs, said Molly, hoping that the Slipperys would look frightened at the mention of them. But they didn't. They rubbed their slippery hands together again and went on smiling. Ah, yes, wonderful dogs they are. If you stand up on your chair and look over the field yonder, you might see some of them flying around, said one Slippery. The children stood on the seat of the chair. The Slipperys clustered round them. Now look right down over that field, began one of them. Do you see a tall tree? Yes, said Molly. Well, look to the right of it and you'll see the roof of a house. And then to the right of that and you'll see another tree, said the Slippery. Can't you tell me exactly where to look, said Molly, getting impatient. I can't see a single flying dog, only a rook or 2. Well, now look to the left and... began another Slippery when Peter jumped down from the chair. You're just making all this up, he said. Go on, be off with you. Don't like any of you. The Slipperys lost their smiles and looked nasty. They laid hands on the wishing chair. I shall whistle for the flying dogs, said Peter suddenly. Now let me see, what is the whistle? Ah, yes, and he suddenly whistled a very shrill whistle indeed. The Slipperys shot off at once as if 100 of the flying dogs were after them. Molly laughed. Peter, that's not really a whistle for flying dogs, is it? No, of course not, but I had to get rid of them somehow, said Peter. I had a feeling they were going to trick us with their silly smiles and rubbing hands and odd eyes, so I had to think of some way of tricking them instead. Oh, I wish Binky would come, said Molly, sitting down in the chair again. He's been ages, and it's all a waste of time. He's going to find his great-aunt if she's at the market. We shall have to go there, I expect, and carry the chair all the way. Way, there is Binky, said Peter, waving. Oh, good, he's dancing and smiling. He's got the spell to make another wing grow. Then his great-aunt couldn't have gone to market, said Molly. Hey, Binky, have you got the spell? Was your great aunt Quickfingers in? Yes, and awfully pleased to see me, said Binky, running up, and she gave me just enough magic to make another wing grow, so we shan't be long now. 5 Slipperies came up, and they said your great aunt always goes to market on Thursdays, said Molly. Oh, you can't believe a word they say, said Binky. I told you that. My word, I'm glad they didn't trick you in any way. They usually trick everyone, no matter how clever they may be. Well, they didn't trick us, said Peter. We were much too smart for them, weren't we, Molly? Yes, they wanted to sit in the chair when they knew it was a wishing chair, said Molly, but we wouldn't let them. I should think not, said Binky. He showed the children a little blue box. Look, I've got a smear of ointment here that is just enough to grow a red wing to match the other wings. Then the chair will be quite all right. Well, let's rub it in, said Peter. Binky knelt down by the chair, and then he gave a cry of horror. What's the matter? Said the children. Look, somebody has cut off the other 3 wings of the chair, groaned Binky. Cut them right off short. There's only a stump left of each. Molly and Peter stared in horror. Sure enough, the other 3 wings had been cut right off. But how and when? Who could have done it? I wonder. The children had been with the chair the whole time. Oh, I do think you might have kept a better guard on the chair, said Binky crossly. I really do. Didn't I warn you about the ways of the Slipperies? Didn't I say you couldn't trust them? Didn't I? Oh, Binky, but when could it have been done? Cried Molly. I tell you we were here the whole of the time. Standing by the chair? Asked Binky. Yes, or on it, said Peter. On it? Whatever did you stand on it for? Said Binky, puzzled. To stop the Slipperies sitting down? No, to see your great aunt's flying dog, said Peter. The Slipperies said they were over there, and if we would stand up on the chair seat, we could just see them flying around. But we couldn't. Of course you couldn't, said Binky, and for a very good reason too. They're all at the cottage with my great aunt. I saw them. Oh, the dreadful storytellers, cried Molly. Peter, it was a trick. Whilst we were standing up there trying to see the dogs, one of the Slipperies must have quietly snipped off the 3 wings and put them in his pocket. Of course, said Binky. Very simple. And you're a pair of simpletons to get taken in by such a silly trick. Molly and Peter went very red. What shall we do? Asked Peter. I'm very sorry about it. Poor old chair. 1 wing not grown and the other 3 snipped away. Oh, it is a shame. Thank goodness Binky has the growing ointment for wings, said Molly. Yes, but I've only just got enough for 1 wing, said Binky. 1 wing isn't going to take us very far, is it? No, said Molly. Whatever are we going to do? I shall have to ask Great Aunt Quickfingers for some more growing ointment. That's all, said Binky gloomily. And this time you can come with me and bring the chair too. If I leave you here alone with it, you'll get tricked again, and I shall come back and find the legs are gone next time, and I can't even grow wings on them. It's not nice for you to keep on and on about it, Binky, said Molly, lifting up the chair with Peter. We are very sorry. We didn't know quite how clever the Slipperies were. Oh, horrid creatures, with their odd eyes and deceitful smiles. They followed Binky down the road and along a lane. Soon he came to his great-aunt's cottage. It was very snug and small. To Molly's enormous delight, 5 or 6 little brown dogs, rather like spaniels, were flying about the garden on small white wings. They barked loudly and flew to the 3 of them. Now, these are friends of mine, said Binky, and patted the nearest dog, which was flying round his head. It was strange to have the little dogs sailing about the air like gulls. One flew up to Molly and rested its paws on her shoulder. She laughed, and the dog licked her face. Then off it flew again and chased after a sparrow, barking madly. Great Aunt Quickfingers came to the door, looking surprised. Why, Binky, back here again so soon? She said. What's happened? Binky told her. So you see, Great Aunt, now that the poor poor chair has lost all its wings. I'm afraid that the growing ointment you gave me won't be enough," said Binky. "I'm so sorry." "Well, well, it takes a very clever person to see through the slippery ways," said his great-aunt. "You'd better come in and have tea now that you're all here." The children put down the wishing chair, and Great-aunt Quickfingers got the little treacle tarts out of the oven. "There you are," she said. "Get your fingers nice and sticky with those. I'll go and make some more growing ointment for you. It won't take long." She disappeared, and the children sat and munched the lovely treacle tarts. Just at that moment she came back with a fairly large jar. She handed it to Binky. "There you are. Use that and see what happens. But remember, you can only use it once on anything. The spell doesn't act twice. It's no good trying to use the ointment another time on the chair to make it grow wings, because it won't be any use." Binky dipped his finger into the jar of ointment. It was curious stuff, bright yellow with green streaks in it. He rubbed some on a chair leg, and immediately a most wonderful wing sprouted out, big and strong. "I say, it isn't red as it always is," cried Molly. "It's green and yellow, and a much bigger wing than before. I say, chair, you will look grand. Make another wing come, Binky." And soon the wishing chair had 4 grand green and yellow wings, much bigger than its old red ones. It waved them about proudly. "You'd better get in the chair and go before it tries its new wings out by itself," said Great-aunt Quickfingers. So in they all got, Binky on the back as usual, and off they went. "Home, chair, home!" cried everyone, and it rose high in the air, flew off to the west. "Goodbye, and thank you very much," cried Binky and the children, and Great-aunt waved until they were out of sight. "Well, that was quite a nice little adventure," said Peter, "and the chair's got some wonderful new wings. I do hope they'll always grow like this in future, big and strong and all green and yellow." There we go. Ooh. I just looked at the next chapter. Chapter 9 is Molly and the growing ointment. Uh-oh. I think something's going to go wrong. What do you think? Okay. Hope you enjoyed that. I did. What do you think of the slipperies? Very tricky. Love you loads. See you soon. Bye-bye. Mwah.